Insecurity, a major problem in Cameroon's urban centers as well as the hinterlands. Here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, illegal and criminal activities seem to be prospering despite efforts of security and defense forces to turn down the criminal activities. Traffickers of drugs have been arrested, many of them here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, by security and defense forces. Smanjika and Gabriel reports.
It's 4 a.m. Sunday, June 20, 2021. Elements of the Mobile Intervention Police Unit, GMI2 Douala, gearing up for an operation in the Douala 4 subdivision.
2 days ago, we doing our normal patrols around the Bonaberi neighborhood. So we arrested one suspect who was selling cocaine and marijuana in public. So we brought the suspect to our base, and immediately during our exploitation, he revealed to us that he was just a minor amongst the chain of business. So through him and through the exploitation, he gave us all the information and the chain.
At the Ngwele neighborhood, where their informant gave them a tip-off of a certain group of boys smoking marijuana and also selling at the same time, a door-to-door search that the security forces did. The search led to the discovery of several items in rooms that were searched.
Resulted to all what we have seen, to the arrest of 10 suspects whom we caught in the process of consumption and sale of marijuana and cocaine. And in the course of searching the residence of the main suspect, we got so many objects and articles that have been placed under investigation.
At this house, still under construction, belonging to an inmate serving an 18-year prison sentence, the security forces discovered a huge bulk of marijuana and others already packaged, ready for the market. Surprisingly, the man who is expected to be at the New Bell prison serving his jail term was also seen outside by the police officers around his house. The base where they consumed this dangerous herb was shown to the security forces. The zone is known as Stad. After the search, the security forces arrested 9 persons and took along with them all items not identified alongside drugs seized. Security forces call for more collaboration from the population.
I want to use this opportunity to inform the population around the Douala sphere to be very vigilant and to cooperate with the police, give us the right information that will help us to make sure that we fight against these criminal activities and the sale of drugs.
The 9 alleged drug consumers and traffickers were later presented to the public before they were transferred to the Judicial Police Station for more investigation. The head of the Mobile Intervention Police Unit, GMI2, says such operation will continue as instructed by the regional delegate of National Security, Raymond Esogo.
That was the last operation by police officers, which led to the arrest of 9 persons involved in illegal activities. Several others had already been arrested before in similar operations. And to the west region of the Republic of Cameroon, now precisely in the Bambutus division, elements of the Mobile Intervention Unit of the Police Force, number 1 in the Bafoussam, have discovered and destroyed cannabis grown on a vast piece of land in Bambutus in the west region of the country. Once more, Smanjika and Gabriel has the details. bringing to you details on this other operation against the fight against illegal activities, notably the growing and of course trade of cannabis in the west region of the country, and precisely in the Bambutus division. This is, however, not the first time farms of cannabis are discovered and destroyed in the west region of the country, and precisely in the Bambutus division. This time along, elements of the mobile intervention unit of the police force number 1 in Bafusam, west region of the country, discovered a large farm of cannabis in the Bambutus division. Innocent as a report.
It all began with a strenuous journey from Bafusam to Bamelu, a locality in Bacham subdivision, Bambutos division of the West region, where is found a 5-hectare piece of land on which cannabis is grown. The precarious nature of the roads leading to the cannabis farmland made the operation almost an impossible one for elements of the Mobile Intervention Police Unit GMI Bafusam, who were acting on the instruction of the West Regional Delegate for National Security. It took them about 2 hours 30 minutes to get to the targeted area, the cannabis farm. What they saw seemed unbelievable, but real.
Yeah, c'est le sapin. Je te juge, voilà quelqu'un qui va sauver. Mais là.
Destruction immediately began. The cannabis was then carried away to be presented to the regional authorities.
Nous allons nettoyer ce village. Nous commençons d'abord à détruire ce champ afin de présenter le butin aux autorités.
According to Mbaruga Ayisi Aristide, Divisional Commissioner of GMI number 3, Bafusam, this is where separatist fighters in neighboring Lebialen southwest region come to be supplied cannabis, which they consume and cause atrocities, as well as threatening the peace and unity of the country. Thus, need to cleanse this locality.
Nous allons passer village par village afin de nettoyer pour que la crise puisse arrêter de notre côté.
Cleansing of this locality and more, he says, can only be easy with the collaboration of the population.
Il faut que la population nous soutienne. Nous sommes disposés à travailler suivant les instructions de la haute hiérarchie.
The population is thus expected to denounce such illegal cultivation, including other suspicious activities, once they come across.
Motorbike riders, commercial motorbike riders take to the streets in Marwan in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, protesting against insecurity, the interrupted circulation and burnt tires on the road in the central town of Marwa, protesting against what they consider as failure by the police force to ensure their security. Many of them are complaining over the fact that when a criminal is arrested and taken to the police, he is seen outside, he is released after some days, and the crimes continue. They took to the streets protesting after one of theirs was killed, and the alleged killer, who admitted to his crime, taken to the police force, but they were demanding that he should be released so that they can execute jungle justice on him. They seem to have lost trust in the police force, and so they took to the streets protesting, interrupting circulation, and the senior divisional officer of the Diamare division was there to talk to them and to calm them down. That was, of course, yesterday in Marwa in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, and the senior divisional officer of the Diamare division told them that the President of the Republic has instructed them, and he has instructed him and other government authorities to take care of bikers, to protect bikers, and so they don't need to take to the streets to make their voices heard. They should rather channel their grievances to the local administrative authorities who will provide solutions and ensure their security. The British High Commission to Cameroon has reiterated its call on all actors, non-state and state actors in the security crisis in the northwest, southwest and far north regions of Cameroon to enable humanitarian actors to carry out their activities safely in a bid to meet the needs of thousands of persons in need of humanitarian aid in a context where humanitarian principles are violated and aid workers attacked in the crisis zones. The United Kingdom underlines its support for the principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. In a press release, the British High Commission states that the United Kingdom is thus determined to be and remain a force for good in Cameroon to save lives, alleviate suffering, and maintain human dignity. The British High Commissioner to Cameroon, Dr. Christian Denis McClure, was recently in the northwest, west and far north regions, meeting with partners working to address the humanitarian crisis impacting thousands of people in the three regions. And in the past 3 years, the United Kingdom has supported or spent over 20 million euros in cash assistance, healthcare, food security, water, sanitation, and hygiene to save lives, alleviate suffering, and maintain human dignity in the crisis-affected regions via partners including the United Nations, International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, the World Food Programme, and of course the International Committee of the Red Cross. On to something else now. We talk about COVID-19 and the hesitating attitude of the people of Bangem in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon vis-a-vis the COVID-19 vaccines. Many of the inhabitants are avoiding or refusing to get vaccinated against the coronavirus pandemic. They are putting questions on the safety of the vaccine. Charles Ekome has more.
In Bangem, in the Kupe-Maninguba division of the southwest region, many inhabitants are still hesitating to take the COVID-19 vaccines. They are questioning the safety of the vaccines, while others have completely rejected it. Out of more than the 19,000 inhabitants of the locality, less than 10% of them have received the vaccines. That is about 20 people.
You don't hear about coronavirus?
Yes.
Don't you say don't use your Bangem hospital?
Yes, take me. I never take her, and I know take her. No one die.
In a bid to encourage population to take the vaccines, administrative authorities have embarked on a mass sensitization campaign.
We've had 32 cases since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and we've had just a single death. The other patients have recovered. So far, we are trying to fight the pandemic as much as we can. With respect to the vaccine, people have been coming for their vaccines. It's true the vaccination coverage is still low, but we encourage people to take their vaccines and stay safe, especially as there is no standard treatment for COVID.
We are encouraging our population to come out in the number to have this vaccine. Is the only way to be safe and to be immunized against this pandemic.
Over 2,500 COVID-19 tests have been carried out in the district hospital of Bangem, of which 32 persons were tested positive for the coronavirus. Moreover, administrative authorities have called on locals to respect barrier measures.
It has been there over the years. It is still there and may still be there as long as Cameroon's economic capital Douala exists. I'm talking about urban disorder. This is a problem that has resisted efforts of local and administrative authorities over the years, who have been struggling to put an end to disorder across the town of Douala to no avail. And now the city council has launched an operation known as Pedestrian Path Back to Pedestrians, and this is causing enormous trouble to some city dwellers who had been doing business on the roadside. Details with Glory Mala.
A trader pours out his anger in frustration and disappointment as he is deprived of doing business along the streets of Aqua following the operation Pedestrian Path Back to Pedestrians. Another trader in tears laments her only source of livelihood has been trampled upon due to this operation spearheaded by the mayor Roger Basadini and the senior divisional officer for Wuri, Benjamin Butu.
I am not happy because with this corn I feed my children of me. Since yesterday I buy this corn and plum. The plum is rotting. They have not given us space to sell. We used to stay normally behind the toilet there, but we are not able. Now if we look at my little girl, she is here helping me just to sell cash net because we want to feed her. Then the way they come here are treating us just as if we are not Cameroonians. So the thing is very painful.
This action has created commotion due to resistance from the traders.
They are not going back to the street again.
The predecessors of these authorities carried out similar actions in the fight against urban disorder, but the problem has been persisting over the years.
News out of Cameroon: dozens of people have reportedly been killed or injured after Ethiopia's air forces bombed a market in the northern region of Tigray. Witnesses say the Ethiopian Air Force struck the town of Togoga, 25 kilometers from the region's capital Mekele yesterday, and the Ethiopian military denied targeting civilians, saying it carried out the strikes to neutralize terrorists. And Tigrayan rebel forces are said to have made advances in recent days. However, this has been denied by the Ethiopian government. Thousands of people have been killed and millions displaced after conflict erupted almost 8 months ago. And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Right, we go straight to talking points without the transition today, and we are receiving the Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, Fabrice Lena. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila. Good evening to you. Good evening to the numerous viewers of Equinoxe TV. Good evening to all the people living in the restive regions. We know it's not easy with you guys over there, with the insecurity, rise in violence, and the difficult humanitarian conditions, especially with the hard decisions of the authorities not to give permission to some NGOs.
We're going to come to that in a short while. We're going to come to that in a short while. Let me have your reaction concerning this issue of urban disorder in the town of Douala. Authorities have come and gone from the period when Nasiri Paul Biya was still the senior divisional officer of the Wuri division, and even before him they have struggled from the time of Fritz Tone as government delegate right up to now. And even before these authorities, those who were there, their predecessors, struggled with this problem to no avail. And urban disorder is practically imposing its own laws on city dwellers in the Douala. What do you think about this problem?
Yes, Mr. Babila, when the government of a country is in disorder, all other aspects of governance in the country is in disorder. It's a normal thing in Cameroon to see that you move in the cities and you find bike riders passing everywhere, anarchy on the roads. in the middle of the city. It's a common place to see in the markets roads that are supposed to be used by cars and bikes, occupied by traders, hawkers, and you begin to ask yourself that where is the order? The question is self-explanatory. There is no order in our government, and the people who are in these offices do not even have order of themselves, and they cannot order the citizens. So the country is some sort of jungle. We are in some sort of jungle where everybody does what he or she thinks. And Douala, being a large metropolitan town of this number of population that it has, with so many foreigners of Central Africa, Gabon, Chad, and so on and so forth, there is supposed to be rules and regulation, and it ends at the level of the offices, it ends at the level of the papers. Nothing is implemented. Then we are bound to face the circumstances that we are facing. The fault goes to the we don't first of all have city planning in Cameroon, because when they talk about city planning, people construct in a very funny way. They give permission to construct only to people who maybe think or act to the way the regime wants. They have politicized everything in life, even social life, people's normal life. They have politicized everything. Even the way people are supposed to live is being politicized, and it's difficult to set order in such conditions.
Several authorities, with the aid of the police and even the National Gendarmerie, have carried out several operations and several actions before, and now we have another one codenamed the pedestrian path back to the pedestrians. In other words, the city council wants to get the pedestrian path rid of makeshift business structures and every other thing occupying those paths reserved for pedestrians. But the question here is that these kind of actions have been coming on again and again, but the problem is still there.
The effectiveness of decision to be enforced by government officials should be reflected in the administration and at the level of their own office. If you are in Yaoundé, you go to any of the ministries, what they call Palais de Justice, Ministry of Higher Education, and so on and so forth. You have a lot of people there that don't have any work, sitting there to collect documents, and Cameroonians are seeing that, they are watching. And then when it comes to the marketplaces also, these tax collectors, the people who are supposed to ensure town planning and so on, when they come, they collect money from these traders and leave them there. This is not the first time that we are seeing this. In Yaoundé, that I'm used to, like the Etuji market that is very close to the presidency, there was a particular time where they come and say they are going to evacuate everybody that is along the roadside of Etuji market. That was done for 1 week. The next week, everybody was back there, because it was said that the traders gathered money, went to the office of the mayor in collaboration of the GO of the set division, that Yaoundé one subdivision, the presidential subdivision, gave money, and if you go to the market now, it is the same anarchy. The system has failed. That's the simple answer to all this. And for Cameroonians to understand this, they need to sometimes question, because all these things gives a lot of stress. When you are in the market, the environment is extremely smelling. When you are running across the town to go and catch up with appointment and businesses, a lot of anarchy, and that's why we found accidents. There is complete disorder in the governance and administrative setup in our country. It needs to be rectified at the first place.
You're throwing all the blame on the system, on the government, on the authorities, and so on. But what about the incivility, or what about the indisciplined character of many citizens? This is what the authorities are saying. You're not supposed to be here.
You might say that
this place.
You might say that citizens are indisciplined. I was reading a document concerning the administration of one former African head of state, Samora Machel, when he saw that the capital of Mozambique, Maputo, was getting chaotic. What did he do? He created a new city, designed it by people who have done town planning. They created new city, created environments where people can go, created new jobs, designed the environment for people to relocate. But in our situation, yes, it worked very well and created employment, and then the towns were decongested, and it worked, and it will reduce crime wave. In our own situation, I don't know whether those who are governing are thinking, or they are even having ideas that they can put in place and it will work. All these aspects of indiscipline comes first from the person who is leading. Once you manifest characteristics of indiscipline as a civil administrator, be it at the level of the DO, SDO, voted mayor, parliamentarian, government minister, or whatsoever, the citizens copy these things and they multiply it when they are manifesting. Because in governance there are two groups of people: those who govern, who are supposed to be the guarantor of the laws, ensure that the laws are being respected, and those who are supposed to follow. But when those who are supposed to ensure are the very people breaking these laws, the other people become very indisciplined, and that's the situation we're experiencing in Cameroon. If you look at it, the education system also plays a role in this, because in Cameroon the education system is meant to teach people what they will they call it what, cram and reproduce, not how to organize themselves and build and contribute within themselves their own talent to build a nation.
Another issue highlighted by some observers, the fact that poverty and hardship has increased rural exodus and is sending young people in their numbers out of their villages, out of the regions, to Douala. Many of them streaming into Douala, increasing the population. Many of them who are jobless, moving on the streets, doing one thing or the other, struggling to put food on the table.
If you look at the policies that has been designed by the CPDM regime that has failed Cameroonians, you will realize that they will say agriculture is important for our economy, and we all know that at a particular time agriculture and primary activities is about 70% of total output of what the country consumes and exports. But when you find yourself in the situation where you graduate as an agricultural engineer, and for you to open a greenhouse agricultural farming to go and do animal husbandry or any sort of farming, and you have to receive sponsorship from the government, you must be a CPDM militant, or you must behave in a particular pattern that the government wants before you are given such grants. There are many people whose applications for grants has been rejected simply because it is favoritism, nepotism, and all the vices that accompany administration. When these vices accompany administration, you leave the youth with no option than to abandon the villages and come to the town to look for greener pasture. And while in town, they come to see the realities of town, that it is not what people were telling us in the villages. The town is hard, rent and all these things. And most of these people turn now to what? Crimes. And that is how we have insecurity, crime wave, and so on and so forth. It is about non-implementation of policy of political party that is in power.
All right, let's talk about something which you mentioned earlier. The British High Commission to Cameroon is reiterating its call on non-state and state actors in the security crisis in the northwest, southwest, far north regions of the country to enhance access for humanitarian workers to meet the needs of thousands of people who are in need of humanitarian aid. This call is coming at a point in time when there are complaints coming from Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, complaining about the suspension of its activities in the northwest region and saying that thousands of people have been deprived of emergency health care at this point in time. What's your take on this decision coming in a crucial moment like this, when there are thousands of people in need of the services of that organization?
That is this is where you will understand with me that the management of the country is not concerned about the welfare of the people they are managing, because we don't understand how a regime, government authorities will be taking such decisions as to hinder Doctors Without Borders and humanitarian NGOs to have access to people who are in need of humanitarian assistance to stay alive. Doctors here has to do with people who may have received bullet wound, people who may have been running for their daily life, and they are in some sort of very vulnerable conditions. And when you say that the people should not have access to these people, it means you want them to die. I want to ask the authorities in Yaoundé if they want their citizens to die, if that is what the citizens vote them to be in power to do, to allow them to die on sick beds because they cannot have accessibility. And United Nations Commission for Refugees and Human Rights is reporting that about 2.something million people are in need of assistance in this very vulnerable part of the country. It's appalling. It's left for Cameroonians to see that their government wants them to die in vulnerability, because those who even have the good faith to come and help them are not allowed to go and see them. This is the same thing that was said to Aya Foundation some time ago, with baseless accusations from some people, some individuals who, because of their personal interest, will not want that vulnerable people should be saved from their very difficult conditions. And this is a call for concern, because if some people are sitting somewhere in other parts of the country, they feel very comfortable with the situation that is going on, because in this country there is that tendency of my problem is my problem, your problem is your problem, the problem of that other person is the problem. But the bad governance, despite their divide and rule system, is affecting each and every one in one way or the other, physical or psychological. And we have to understand that until we start defending one another against these people who do not work for the interests of the so-called population they claim to protect, we are not going to achieve anything, and we will suffer for a very long time.
Another question that is coming from the people is that why should humanitarian organizations be seen as enemies, be seen as people who want to destabilize the country? Why is it that they
I believe that
see from this perspective, which sometimes may justify this kind of decision, suspending the activities of Doctors Without Borders?
I believe that in every country, before an organization is given the accreditation of being a humanitarian organization, be it at the level of association in our country before it gets to an NGO level, or a foreign NGO, international, that comes into the country, there are rules and regulations to follow. And if you do not fulfill the conditions, I don't think anybody will go to a public place to go and carry activities in the name of an organization that does not fulfill the conditions of the law in Cameroon. Therefore, we should question the competence of the authorities that are granting these NGOs the accreditation to create the NGOs or to empower them to go and do activities. And when they are doing the activities, they judge it to not to be in favor of the government. Because since the government is the state, they are in one way or the other inducing people by some disposition to take their stance, which is not correct, which is not the right thing, because not all their actions are right, not all their actions are correct or favorable to the population, and as such, they cannot tell independent citizens organizations to work the way they want. It is not proper at this point in time, especially in conflict situation, because in conflict situation we are looking at two camps, and you must hear both sides of the story. If the crisis in the northwest and southwest region in southern Cameroon today is persisting, is for the simple fact that the government in Yaoundé, the regime in Yaoundé, has refused to acknowledge the fact that every war ends in dialogue. And we keep telling them that no matter how long it will take, it will still dialogue.
It will still end in dialogue. While we are expecting that so much talked about dialogue that is expected to put an end to the bloodshed and the destruction in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. There are 5 government workers who have been in captivity now for several days. There were 6 of them, and 1 was killed, and the other 5 are still in captivity. And until now, we've had no official statement from the authorities.
I want to applaud John Dennis Tabe, the national president of the Popular Action Party, for his interview that he granted to Cameroon Tribune, telling them that we of the Popular Action Party condemn every action of kidnapping that do not respect rights of human beings, fundamental rights of human beings. It is not proper. We do not in any way think that violence can solve a situation. But in a context where words do not mean anything to the people that are supposed to guide, lead, govern, manage your social security life, What do you do? What do the people do? What do the government of Cameroon want from Cameroonians? Maybe you journalists could ask them and they could answer us this question, because from time till now, before even the crisis came to violence, people have been writing petitions, people have been writing letters, people have been saying this is the way this crisis could end. It goes to deaf ear, and recently we are seeing military trucks pirating all over that is going to go and quench or go and fight the people that they have acknowledged to be fighting the central government. Because if they do not acknowledge, they will not have organized the national dialogue. If they do not acknowledge, they will not have created disarmament centers. If they do not acknowledge, they will not talk of reconstruction. They have acknowledged, but at the same time they come and pretend and start calling their names. What we want them to understand here is that the delegates that have been kidnapped by the separatists are supposed to be protected by the government. There are two things that worries me. The first thing is, how can government civil servants in a conflict situation be moving without full protection? And then the second thing that comes to my mind again is that is the security in that area that volatile that they cannot rescue such high-profile civil servants in such a situation? It is a week now, and you ask yourself again, why has the government been silent for this long to make a statement about this situation? And recently I saw the Ministry of Social and Family Affairs want to respond to one social issue of a lady there. It's appalling in our country that we do not know what is priority to us. And these are the things that push some people crazy about living in a country where we keep talking of living together, but we manifest the contrary in our actions and our words and the way we manage the country.
We will not stop talking about the way out until we get out of the troubled waters. Repetition may be necessary at a certain point in time to continue hitting the hammer on the nail. The way out, Fabrice.
Well, we of the Popular Action Party had said it time and again that for us to come to the end of this crisis, we have to revisit the basis of our coming together. We have to talk to one another. The government could use the opportunity of the delegates that have been kidnapped to initiate official negotiations with the restorationists or the separatists, or initiate negotiations, and from there it could now go international, and perhaps we could come to the end of this crisis. Because whatever thing that is done, Mr. Babila, the rain go come down, whatsoever thing that is done, if the present president do not negotiate, the next president will negotiate. There is no war in human existence that has ended without negotiations. So they are just whining time.
If he does not negotiate,
the next president will negotiate. Will do. Exactly. That is what I want to tell Cameroonians, because we are just whining time. There is never a war without negotiations. And even with the people that they consider the way they call it, they have to negotiate for peace to reign. What is happening in that part of the country is not only affecting people there, it's affecting the national territory, it's affecting Africa, it's affecting CEMAC sub-region, it's affecting ECOWAS, it's affecting Africa and the world. And the world must turn its eyes to the crisis of Cameroon. We have to revisit the 1961 constitution. We have to agree on the basis of living together, redefine the basis of a new republic, or if we don't agree, we go our separate ways. That's the best way out.
Fabrice Lena, Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Babila. I'm always glad to be your guest.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Serge Alain will be yours in some few minutes with Equinoxe.